Hey YouTube, it's me, Jen, your Pudgy Picker.
And Kim.
And we are here for another podcast, Two Sisters.
One booth.
You just want extra airtime, don't you?
Something different. Trying to think of something new.
And this is podcast number 25.
Oh, should I shut the fan off? Is it going to be a bother?
Yeah, we should
I
probably
have the
turn
air
fan
conditioning
off.
on.
Yes.
So, all right.
So
you continue on without
I was going to say, if any of you have told me that the sound or the quality hasn't been so great, we'll turn the fan off. I will sweat for you, my subscribers. Okay, that should be better.
Silence is golden.
Yes. Okay, now let's move on.
Yes.
So we are on podcast number 25, and the subject today is, how long should I give my space to make money?
Forever.
So this, when we were going over different subjects, I thought this kind of applies to somebody who's new. I think later on we will do a podcast about I'm not making that much money and I've been doing this a while, so maybe we could address what issues those might be. But this, I kind of think we're going to aim it toward, you're a new person, you're starting a new booth.
Welcome to the world of crafted antique booth sales.
So it's a new experience. It is definitely different, and I think people have certain expectations of how it's going to go. So when you start any endeavor, I think you kind of have an idea, well, I'm going to make this amount of money, or at least I'll, cover rent for a certain amount of time. So understanding what your expectations are, what else do you think people might have expectations about?
I think they think they're going to walk in there with all this stuff they consider is good and make tons of money the first week they're open.
Yeah, I kind of compare things to eBay, just because I think people have a certain idea of, this is what I'm going to sell, this is what I'm going to make, this is how it's going to be received, and they may find that something that they're selling, that its price isn't right, or maybe people just don't want it, or there's a lot on the market already.
Yep.
So the same true with booth, that you have an idea of, this is what I'm going to put in it, this is what I'm going to price it at, and you expect to just bring it in and kind of set it there and make a certain amount of money. It seems to me that the people who do the best at our mall are ones who are, I'm not going to say constantly there, but people who
work their booth,
work it a lot.
Yep.
That would be either bringing in new things, marking things down, moving things around, kind of switching things up so that it catches your eye. So it's not necessarily you're just physically there more. It's when they're there, they're moving things around, and that makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are realistic, it's going to make you more patient, because if you expect this, 30 days, I'm going to make $1 million and I'm going to have this amount of money and then I'm going to do A, B, and C, that's not really realistic.
No.
And this is hard work.
Yeah, the first few months, in all honesty, you hope to make money, but in all honesty, the first few months, you may not make any money. You might not even make enough to pay your rent until you figure out what you're doing and get enough stock in there and everything.
And if you are, you get in there and you do make your rent and you do make a little bit more money, you're starting to funnel that into, putting in more product. Because I know when we first started, how long, even since we had done this 7.5 years before in a previous place, how long do you think it took before our booth was pretty much comfortably full?
Well, it took a while.
It took several months.
Yeah, it did. I would say at least six to 8 months. Because we were switching. Every time we went in was something new. We were bringing in more. We were bringing in different stuff. We were bringing in different shelves, rearranging.
Yeah.
We were constantly, first few years, we did a lot of changing.
Yeah, I think we're pretty comfortable with how we have the booth right now, except we do want to change out a few, like, brown type bookcases We want to put shelves on the wall, so that will give us more space. So we are still kind of tweaking it as we go. But it is a lot of hard work, and especially when you set up a space, that is a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Because if you've never done this before, it takes a while to get all the right display pieces, and it takes a while to kind of decide this is where I want this type of item, and this is where I want to, maybe have this type of item. So it's a lot of work. It's kind of like when you move into a new house and you start putting like your dishes in the kitchen, and you kind of put them where you think they're going to work and where you think you want them. And then after you've been there a little while, you see, well, that's kind of silly. It's not really working out. I'm going to move it over here. So it's kind of, what your idea is when you move in, and then what actually is going to function the best.
Yep.
So, like I said, hard work. It's a big deal. When we first started, that's probably the hardest work we put in, is in the beginning, when you're getting everything in there and you're, trying to buy more stuff, and you're, pricing it and trying to get enough out there where, it's gonna cover your costs and you're gonna make some money. There are some booths even now that we see at our place that if everything in the booth sold, I don't know if they'd make their rent.
I know.
They just don't have a lot of things in the booth.
Nope.
They have a lot of wall space. They have a lot of, space where they could have other type of, shelving or merchandise, or they do have a lot of shelves and there's nothing on them. I think you need to put a lot in the beginning, and not just get in there and set it up and then just kind of, as you go, I guess we'll take some more stuff out. I mean, it's got to be, you've got to have it pretty full. I mean, you're paying for all that space.
Yeah.
You want to be able to, fill it up and have it, look inviting for people who want to step in.
Yeah, and you were talking about pricing. I mean, to take each item and physically hold it in your hands and look it over, research it for pricing, write up the labels, stick them on, wrap it up so it can get somewhere safely back to the booth. And I mean, that's a lot of time and energy per piece, especially when you're trying to fill the booth up. And once you get it filled up and then you're bringing in smaller amounts, it's more manageable. But at first, it's a lot of tickets you're writing.
Yeah, I remember when we first started, it was about this time of year, and we took out all of our fall stuff.
Yep.
So we were busy putting that in, and I remember us taking a lot and going, wow, this is a lot of stuff. And then when you put it in, it wasn't even like 15%
Yep.
full, and you're like, wow, we need a lot more stuff. But we had sourced for the summer, and we had a lot of stuff. But like you said, even if you have something that really doesn't even need a lot of work, you still have to kind of clean it up and, get all the gooey off because of the price tag and, like you said, research and price it and then get it so it makes it safely to the booth, and then you have to decide where you're going to place it.
Yeah.
So
Takes time.
it does. It does take a while, and that's, I don't know. We're pretty full now, I would honestly say.
Yeah, I'm sorry that we didn't get to go up on that work day that they had, because I know there's some stuff that's tucked away here and there and stuff that's been there a little while I want to pull.
Yeah.
Like today, I forgot, well, I haven't been as in tune with it as you have lately because of my job now, but I totally forgot that I had a few spring things in that
I still
tucked
had
away.
a few spring things
It's
too.
like, how in the world did that happen? See, we're not perfect. we miss things
Shh,
too.
don't tell them that.
Hey, I'm being realistic here. Yeah, so, it needs a tweak and rearrange.
We have already agreed we are not buying spring things anymore.
Spring doesn't do good.
Unless
it's dirt cheap.
Especially around here.
Yeah.
It's hot. You're sweating one day, and the next day there's snow. Last year, May, we had snow. So people are like, "What in the world is spring?"
Yeah, it was like, this is literally fall. The leaves are starting to change. I'm getting leaves in the driveway in the side yard. A lot of the smaller trees, all of the leaves are yellow or have already mostly fallen off. But it was like 85 today or
Yeah.
something. We have the air conditioning on.
Yeah, it's supposed to be this weekend like 86 for the high on both days.
Yeah, so that we get crazy weather. And it literally is like you just shut the furnace off one day and it's cold the
On the
next.
same day.
Yes.
That really stinks.
Yeah, well, we have a saying around here, if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes. And that's about what it is sometimes.
Yeah.
We have literally gone from like upper 70s to snow on the ground in a 24-hour period.
It's.
What was it last year we did
Yeah.
that? There was a lot of jokes
I know in
about
May.
that.
It was snowing in May this past
Yeah.
year. Or this year. This
Yeah.
year. It's crazy. So, when it comes to such a short season as spring,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll buy signs or things that say garden or welcome to my garden, but if it just says spring on it,
Yeah,
I
mine
don't
were
know.
happy spring. Well, it's
Yeah.
so happy it's sprung right
yeah, the
by
whole
and nobody
hour,
got it.
the whole hour it was spring. So, yeah, so I think, we're constantly struggling with, how much stuff we have out there and, because no matter how you organize it, it's not going to be not everything's prime real estate. Something can be very hard to see. I had those 2 matching square pictures. They had a couple mats in them and they had like a leaf or something. And those were up there underneath a shelf. Finally had space to put them on the wall. They were gone in less than a week. So that's why it's important to move stuff around because, you're from eye level and a little bit up or a little bit down is prime real estate. And if you have things that people aren't bending or looking or can see from the aisle but not up close.
And there are actually people, too, like you're talking about those leaves. There are people that, I mean, don't decorate for the holiday like you're hanging up ornaments, kind of decorating. But there's some people that put in fall-colored things and They have curtains that they switch out. Their winter curtains are different than the summer curtains.
Yeah.
And
Well, we have like sidebars that kind of hang over, and we've, wound like fall leaves and stuff. We have green leaves now. I got to find my fall leaves and just wind them around there just to give it a little bit of color because I don't like to have very much of anything in my booth that isn't for sale,
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of people will have pictures.
Other than our shelves,
Yeah, other than the shelves, you pretty much,
Yeah,
and even then,
display
if you make
stuff.
us a really good deal, we
Hey,
might even budge on those.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah. So, let's see. What was I going to say? So, I guess realizing that it's a lot of work, and if this is something you love to do, it's not going to seem like work. And realize that you are going to have a huge amount of work and effort on the front end to get things put in, to get it filled up, to get it stocked, to get it going. So I think a lot of people, once they put in all that work, and the first couple months they may not even be making rent. There's probably a part of them that's like, man, what did I get myself into?
We over these years, we've seen it. We've seen people come in, and in a month, they're gone.
Yep.
It's like, well, I wasn't making any money, and I couldn't. And no, you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't figure out
No, not
even
4 weeks.
what you're doing right or what you're doing
No.
wrong or what you need to do better, because even season to season, what you should and shouldn't be doing changes.
It does.
So when somebody comes in and they're literally open a month or less than 2 months,
Yep.
you have no idea.
No.
The learning curve has just started.
Yep.
That would be like going on eBay and saying, well, I have this box of stuff and I'm going to list it and it's going to sell. And then it doesn't. And then you're like, forget this. I'm done. I
Yep.
mean,
No, I can't do that.
you have to say, okay, I got to do my research better. I have to buy better. I have to, be more conscious what I'm spending, what I'm pricing stuff at. So there's a lot of reasons you have to kind of sit back and think about what you're doing and why you aren't where you think you should be. And it's funny because I don't think we've ever not made our rent, even when we started new at both places. Even the first place we were at, we always made our rent. But when we started there, we did a full-size booth.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time we got ready to leave, we had a double space.
Ugh, yes.
That was, there are people who have double spaces. And if you're listening to me and you have a double space,
That's great.
that's great. But I think for us, and especially me, My feeling was I was so worried about keeping the booth full and putting enough stuff in it that I feel like my quality wasn't what it could have been or what it
Yeah.
should have been.
Well, and the price out there, we've talked before about the prices being different, what you could get for things out there. And I think with everything being a little higher and the stuff we had to sell a little lower. It was hard to, in order to make it leave, we had to have it lower. So it made it more work because you had to bring in more stuff. I think, too, the other thing with that was we were never happy with the total way it was set up. We were never quite happy. We were
Yeah.
always rearranging that one corner, and
It just wasn't.
yeah.
We just say, there's just something that needs to be done with that
Part of it was we had a pole that was off center,
in our double space. Yeah,
and it really kind of made it difficult to work around.
yeah,
Even though we did incorporate it, we put hooks on it, we did all kinds of stuff, it still was an odd pole. So
Yeah.
I think, I really think that was part of it too. I think if we would have had it set up differently or had the monies to just, that's the other thing. Do you have the money or do you have the stuff at home to bring it in and use those for displays and have it spot on? And if so, hey, more power to you. But in most cases, most people don't.
yeah. And you're not. Your store is going to be very individualized to you. It's not going to be like you open up, a clothing store that's a chain, and I have this amount. Okay, I'm going to have certain walls, brackets on the walls, and I'm going to have this many, circular racks. I mean, you're pretty much corporate. You have a setup. This is the way it's going to be. This is the way it's planned out. And
Planograms.
you can't do that with this. I
No,
mean, it's
no.
totally individualized. You walk into the space, and there are some people, we have 3 walls. There are some people that have 1 wall. There are people who have 2 walls,
Yeah.
depending on where your booth is. And that's,
I don't think I'd want 1 wall. I need more than 1 wall.
I know there are people who have,
On those end ones that only
Yeah,
have the 1 wall.
and that's tough.
I guess if you don't have a lot to hang up, but you have to supply a lot more
But if you
stuff.
you could probably fit more furniture or more like a desk or a table set or I don't know. There's good and bad to it. We have a lot of stuff to hang up, and we don't have a lot of large stuff. So having the 3 walls really works for us. But can you imagine having? I mean, you would have to have really substantial pieces
Yes.
to hold all that stuff.
And again, for continuity, for visual, are you able to find the right stuff to make it look presentable?
Yeah. So that's something definitely that you have to think about, because I think when we were planning to move into the place we're in now, we had a basic idea of how we wanted it,
Oh, yeah.
and we were very fortunate that what we planned for is what we got. Because when a space becomes available and they call you and say, "Well, here's the space. It's got 1 wall, it's got 2 walls, it's got 3 walls." I mean, you have to, we could have totally had to scramble and scrap what we had decided and totally make something different.
Which we would have.
Yeah, we would have figured it out.
But fate, if you believe in fate.
Well, plus,
It just worked out perfect where we went.
the funny thing is whenever we moved into a new space, either the very first space we had at the very first mall, or when we got a half space after that, or when we moved to a double, every time we had to paint. Every time. It was the most hideous, frightening color when we went to move. Like, the double booth was like school bus orange.
It was brighter than that.
Oh my goodness. It was,
You had to wear sunglasses, and when you walked past that empty booth,
it was bad.
it was so yellow.
Now, when we went to the new place that we're at, the walls were what I would have painted it.
Yep.
And part of the store had to be carpeted, but the majority of the store does not have carpet. It was, retail tile, essentially. So some people would buy, like, a rug. And there's even people who have bought, like, Pergo snap-together flooring to put in their booth.
Mm-hmm.
So we were fortunate as well to have, the color was the same, and the carpeting matched really nice. So, it was really set up before. So when we moved in, we really didn't have to do that much. So So all in all, it was nice to move straight in and not have to do anything.
Yeah.
And if you're going to move into a space and you think, I'm going to paint later, slap yourself 7 times.
At least.
Because
7 times
that
7.
will never happen.
No.
And
you want to change those walls, do it before you bring in anything but a paintbrush and a bucket.
That's exactly it. Because you figure, can you imagine sitting in the room you're sitting in, wherever you're listening to this, look around. Can you imagine having to paint the walls and you have all your furniture and all your stuff? Now, imagine it's a retail space and there's 3 times as much stuff
Yep.
on the walls and everywhere else. Now, can you imagine having to say, well, I'm going to paint around that? That's no
Ain't
way.
happening.
So when you do go to move into a space, paint it. If you want to, do it before you move in.
Definitely.
So, yeah, and when you get that call and they say, you know, hey, we have this size space, then we went in and we looked, and I was the first one that got there, and I was like, yeah.
Oh, because we had talked about it prior to that, and you're like, you know, where would be a good spot for a booth, and you think about how you shop and the trends of people and how they walk and what direction they go, and I said, well, this would be a good spot, or that would be, or this would be. A really good spot would be coming up right before the registers there, and that's exactly where we got to go.
Because the booths on either side of us are double spaces, and the one to the right of us has the wall that divides our space from theirs and a back wall. It's open-ended, so it doesn't have a wall there either. The one to the left of us, there's a double, and then the one beyond that is a single, but part of the wall separates it from the cafe area, so the wall doesn't go all the way up. So that's something else. So I think if we could have went in there and said, this would be the perfect space, that's what we got.
Yep, it is.
So, like I said, we had the carpeting. Some people bring in a carpet, or, you know, and even then you have to be careful when you're laying it down, you know, that you don't have a curled end, because you don't want anybody tripping and breaking their neck.
No.
So, yeah, we were fortunate in that. And if, you know, and another thing, when you're starting out, start out small. Don't immediately say, I've never done this before and I want a double space, because you will be tearing your hair out.
Oh, you won't make it.
Yeah. I mean, because you will be so overwhelmed.
Yeah, if you've never done it, don't do that.
We were there about 5.5 years before we went to a double space. And at that time, I was occasionally selling on eBay, but I didn't have a store. I didn't have a large inventory like I do now. There's no way I could maintain.
Well, we had that one maybe a couple years, and then you were thinking about something, and you shared that one as a half a booth or something, almost across from us.
No, we had the single booth together.
Yes.
And then I had a half booth across the aisle.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I'm saying the double booth, we were there about 5.5 years. We only had the double booth for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Before we left.
Yeah.
So
we kept expanding, but it wasn't, we didn't go.
Yeah, but there's no way. I mean, we literally did it for 5.5 years before we got a double space.
Yeah.
And
you experimented with the case too for a while.
Yeah. So I mean, you have to kind of get your foot in the door, and if you're on a list to get into a place, you kind of just tell them, call me when you have anything available and I'm up on the list. So we could have gotten a half booth. We could have, you know, I don't think I would have taken anything bigger.
Yeah, we originally were going to go for half a booth because we weren't sure if we were going to stay in the other one too, or what we were going to do. So we said, you know, I don't know, maybe just start off with a half here and then expand. But then that's when you decided to, you know, that we're going to just shut the booth down. And at that point we said, you know, let us know whatever anything comes up. We'd like to maybe do a full instead of a half. That's how we ended up with that one. So
another interesting thing, and I don't know if we've mentioned this before, is the vendor number that I had when we were out at the first place was, I just wanted to keep that number. We really weren't going to bring that much old merchandise from the first place to the second. We really did clean out and get rid of most of what we have. But the interesting thing is, the lady that was leaving the booth where we eventually moved in her number was the same vendor number I was going to use and wanted to continue to use. You remember that?
It was my number.
No, it was 107.
It was 74.
Was it 74?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I still had more stuff left than you did when we
Are
left
you
the other.
sure?
I am sure.
Well,
Because I didn't have to re-stick or anything, but you could use 107 because nobody was using your number.
okay.
The people that came in got to choose their numbers, or they could assign you a number, or you could choose a number.
Well, some people were staying in the old place.
Yeah.
And if you have something and you want to move it to another place and you have a different vendor number and you have to reprice it, that would be an absolute pain in the butt.
But that ended up happening anyway because the other person made new stickers with the name and everything so that you couldn't do that easily. That's another story. But anyway,
That's another story for another day.
Yeah, maybe never.
But yeah, it really worked out well. And it was, just the timing of it. We got the call and said September 1st, you can get in there. And we were raring to go.
Yeah,
And
it was
we had
funny
we
because
had the summer off.
because you started biting at the bit, and you're like, oh, I like this idea. Boy, I would really like. How long do you think it'll take to get in there? I mean, they're new and they got a long list. How long do you think it's going to be? And I said, I can't. I said, I don't know if they have all people that have done this before. Those people know what they're doing. They're going to stay a while.
Because they know.
Yeah, because they
can't
know.
just jump in and then
Exactly.
jump out.
But I said, if anything, I would think if they have anyone new in the area that they're filling in the extra booths with, the earliest is they're probably not going to make it. If they're not doing well, they're not going to stay more than 3 months. So I had guesstimated September. So when we got the call, it was like
I was right.
I was right.
Well, the funny thing was too is we did get on a list. We were first on the list.
Yeah.
Because when the place was filling up with people taking spaces, the store had all their spaces rented before the doors opened.
Yep.
So that's
which is unheard of in most cases.
Yeah. So in that case, I'm glad we hem-hawed though. I was, because sometimes you think, maybe I should have just pulled the trigger, or maybe we should have just moved, or I have to think about things and I have to be 100% sure on something. And I didn't think that I could or wanted to do 2 spaces in 2 different places.
Yeah, no.
It was just too much.
No.
And especially considering we had a double space and then we would have had another space. I mean, the work days alone, we would have been pulling our hair out because we had to do 4 work days.
Yeah.
Because we had a double space.
Yeah.
Now, where we're at, we have 2 because we have a single space.
Yep.
So...
And that's worked out pretty good so far.
And you figure the rule of the mall is, let's say you came in and you get a half a space and you say, I really want to get a full space or I really want to get a larger space. You are put on a separate waiting list. So when a booth becomes available, before they go to the outside list of people just walking in and saying, hey, I'd like a booth, they go to the people who are inside. So if you want to move to a different place, if you want a bigger space, if you want a smaller space, that was also what was going on. Some people, they were doing a lot of moving around. The lady that left our space was someone who was new to it.
Yes, she was.
And her mother, I guess, was having some health issues and she couldn't continue to do it.
Yeah.
She, I guess, is trying to get back in now.
Oh, okay.
And I think they're talking about maybe giving her preferential treatment over the outside list, maybe, since she'd done it before.
Yeah.
But whatever. But the point being...
she had nice stuff in there.
Yeah,
Do you
she
remember
did.
the first time we saw it, she wasn't out all the way?
She was not very happy with me, though. Because she's like, I just want to get rid of this stuff. I don't want to go through having a sale and everything. And I said, maybe I could offer you something for it. And her idea of a good offer and my idea of a good offer didn't quite mesh up, and she was a little insulted.
Well,
but
the funny thing about that was, too, we're getting so totally off topic.
That's okay.
Are you guys used to this by now,
Yeah,
how we
yeah.
get off a topic? I had been to a garage sale, and it was her. And I didn't know it at first. She had stuff for sale and had still some tickets on some items. And the tickets were the same type of tickets that the other place had. But then I'm looking at it, and it was my number. That was another reason why it was my
That had
number.
to be weird.
So, yeah, I'm like, I know she couldn't have moved in over there. What the hey? So I was like, oh, I see you got Jim. So we got talking, and she told me about that place and everything. So of course, I was already aware of it and everything, but I just kind of fluffed it off. But that I met her then before she had to pull out of there. So when I found out about it, that's what was so weird, because it was my number, and I was going to get to have my number even though she had it.
Isn't that funny?
It is funny.
So, yeah, I guess it's, just it worked out really well, and I was very happy with that. And there are so many people on the list now. There's like 750 people on the, literally.
And that,
we're not making that number up. That's
it's
a
not
real
just
number.
Picking a number out of the air. It is a physical number.
But you never know, because I tell people, even for the longest time, they come in and some people would say, oh, there's just a lot of people, and it's going to be forever before they ever get to you, so don't bother signing up. And I tell people, go ahead and put your name on the list, because these people have been on the list for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And when you finally get that empty booth and you call and say, hey, we have a space, you were on the list, are you still interested? People's circumstances change. They may say, I don't even live in that area anymore, or yeah, I decided to go somewhere else, or I don't have the time, or I'm not going to do it. So, and then they skip on to the next person. Yeah. So not all those people are still going to be ready and willing to open up a space. Mm-hmm. So I guess if we're going to have a bottom line, and if we're going to put all of this into one sentence,
into a nutshell,
you have to do at least 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, I would say no, absolute minimum is 3 months. Absolute minimal.
So, like we said, when we see people come in and then they're gone,
you didn't even give it a chance. You just.
So it's just one of those things that you just see people coming in and coming out. So, and you're like, wow, didn't they just move in?
I wasn't making no money. You haven't been here long enough to make any money.
Our booth wasn't even comfortably full in 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
I mean, we were still, even though we thought we were hot stuff, because we'd been doing this for 7.5 years, we get into this place and it was totally different. Yeah. It's different clientele, and so even
pricing.
then,
I mean, we're still on occasion, we're still getting used to. I mean, I think we do pretty good, but there's still on occasion where we'll look at each other and go, "What do you think I should put on this?" And then one or the other usually goes a little bit higher than what we originally thought, and you're like, "Really?" And I say, like anything, you can always mark it down if it doesn't sell, and it sells. So, that's one of the learning curves there, is we can get more money for stuff. That's cool.
That's very cool.
One I like.
Yeah, and considering what our rent is, how many days a week we have to work, and the percentage, we're having a smaller percentage come out than we did in the other place too, and that was a huge consideration. Yeah. So I guess, all being said, how long should you give your space to make money? At least 3 to 4 months. Yeah. And you have to realize, just like eBay or any other endeavor that you're going to take, there's a learning curve. There's the expectations you come in with, and even if they're not necessarily unrealistic, they still may not be accurate. So when you move in and you have a certain idea of how things are going to be, or if you start, then you're there for 3 or 4 months, you start looking around, hey, I don't see anybody selling this particular item. Maybe I should include that in my booth. I don't see anybody selling this particular item. I would start selling the incense. I would do the lucky bamboo. So there was things we were starting to incorporate in. You were like, there's not a lot of people doing handcrafted items. So, you start seeing that, and that takes time to look around and to really, look at other people's spaces and see what's being offered and what you can offer that's totally different.
We go back again. I know not all malls, the places that you go into, that you have outside help or whatever. But if you have any opportunity, if you aren't physically working in the store, like part of our arrangement is that we have to, volunteer, go up there, hang around, shop yourself. Pay attention to what the customers are there, what they're buying, what's going through, and what are the prices that they're paying on things. It is such an eye-opener to see some of the stuff you'd think, I would have never picked that up, or I would have never done that, and look what the price is
Or if I would have picked that up, I never would have put that price on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, it is I think
Gotta
it is a
learn.
benefit to
You
us.
have to take, if you're going to do this, you're going to have, like she said in the beginning, put in all that work, but go that extra step, that extra mile to educate yourself. Be there, see what it is. I mean, anybody, just like eBay, you could put a price, any kind of price on anything, but see what is selling and what it's going for. Why did it sell for that price? You know, you have.
And
to
if you have
take
two
time.
items that kind of look alike that they sold, the one sold for more, why? Why was that?
Yeah.
So getting yourself educated. I think the people who come in and just want to throw stuff in there and just, not tend it, not spend much time, just kind of buzz in, throw it in there and buzz out. I mean, you're not going to get the money that you're looking to get. If you're that hands off about it, you're just not going to get out of it what you want. So it's kind of like a garden, you need to be in there and tending it and paying attention to it and keeping an eye on stuff, because you think, I'll just leave it, it'll do its thing.
No.
Yeah, you're gonna end up with a mess.
It may, and you may get a tomato or two, but if you tend to it, you'll get a lot more.
So, yeah, and it's like anything else. I mean, in this type of business, if you aren't really loving what you're doing, it's going to be harder than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot of work, and we love to do it. It's going to be even way harder if you don't like to do it. So, I guess if you come into this type of thing and you're like, I'm in it just for the money, you're not going to last.
And that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I follow for eBay and that. I've watched and kind of followed for a little while a lot of people that are on there making big bucks. But then when you see what they're doing, it's like, oh, that's a lot of money and that's great. But I just personally, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And, people say if something's worth having or worth doing, that it does require a lot of work. So, and you can tell when you go through our mall, you can look and tell who's putting in the work and who's just buzzing in and tossing something in and going back out the door.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. So, yeah, so give it time. Make sure that your expectations you're being realistic. If you're thinking about getting into a place and you aren't sure yet, or you're waiting on the list, or you have questions, go in, ask the owners, ask the management, ask other vendors. Any vendor in our place is more than willing to, if you ask them a question. Some might take a half an hour to tell you what they think.
Yeah.
And others will take 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, usually we're all kind of, we're all in the same boat. And some people have been doing it way longer than us.
Oh, yeah.
We've been at it, 9.5 years, and we're still learning. And there's people who have been doing it way longer
It's
than
always
us.
changing. That's the
Yep.
thing about this business. It's always changing.
Yeah, because
What
there's...
sells now may not sell next week, and I can still sell it next week, but for a heck of a lot more or a heck of a lot less.
Yeah, so, give yourself that time, and don't think you're so smart that you know what you're doing when you haven't done it yet. Don't get in your own way, I guess.
That's for sure.
Is how to put that. So, I guess that's all we had this week. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Nope.
Nope.
That's
So,
it.
we hope you enjoyed our podcast this week. Please give this video podcast a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. You have a question or a comment, or you can email a question or comment to jen@pudgypicker.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram under The Pudgy Picker. And until next week, I know the spiel gets longer.
It took 3 pages flipping there to get all that out.
I know. You know what? It seems like there's a lot more people on Instagram, more activity on Instagram for me than there is on Twitter. So I don't know. Whatever. If you want to tweet, if you want to whatever.
Tweet, tweet.
I'm not on Snapchat yet. My son is trying to get me on Snapchat, and I'm like, no. So I got so much stuff to keep track of. It's just ridiculous. So that is all we got. We will see you next week. And until then...